Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's from Rockdale. Excuse me. And as usual, I am your host, Larry Cox, and it's great to have each and every one of you join me tonight on the show. So, as usual, why don't we do something? Why don't we share and like the show so that we can gain an audience, bigger audience? And actually, if they don't watch tonight, share and like it so that other people can know that we're on out here and that there's things they need to know about. And then while you guys are sharing and liking the show, I'm going to go through here and say hello to some of my listeners who have said hello in the chat. Ethel Bland, good evening, Ethel, and thanks for going joining the show. Mary Boysworth, good evening, thanks for joining the show. William Campbell, good evening, thanks for joining the show. Danielle Munoz, thanks for joining the show, Danielle. Judy Bond, thanks for joining the show. Pamela Lowry, thanks for joining the show. Dan Burks, great to see you tonight, Dan. Jill Oden, great to have you here tonight, Jill. Charlotte Gellert, great for you to be here. So, guys, like I said, continue to share and like the show so that we can just let people know what's going on in the community, know what's going on, and we can all have a discussion on the show tonight because I always put up comments and discuss comments as you guys have input. I think it's a fun part of the show to let you guys be interactive and be able to say things and let people know what your thoughts are. Because hey, remember, Larry Cox is a First Amendment advocate. I believe in free speech. I believe that we all have the right to say what's going on, why it's going on, and how it's going on. So that's what I believe. So Cheryl Moulton says it's been an interesting week. Cheryl, why don't you, like, if your top three things that you found were interesting this week, type them out there in the chat so we can we'll discuss some of them tonight. But what I'm going to do, I promised you guys the last week, what I was going to do is talk about the high density housing and the impact it has on a community and how it will impact Rockdale County and specifically the city of Conyers and the centralized area where the majority of this housing is going right now. Well, I told you, this is damage that can't be undone. Because as I drove around Conyers today, when I went to church, went to my office and did an errand, and I'm going by all these new developments and they're empty. I'm going by all these new buildings that are empty. No one's moved in them yet. Lease for sale, in the windows on them, listing agent available. I mean, no one has moved in these buildings yet. Like I said, let's remember, they're all over $300,000. Who are they targeting? Uh, what person that can afford a $300,000 note is going to move into one of those homes? I really don't see anybody. I mean, nobody I know will move in those homes. Nobody I know. Just saying, guys. So let's talk about high density housing, how it impacts a community. So first thing, let's go is, who have a lower per capita income. So uh, Ken Holmes and I were talking the other day, and Ken was bringing some numbers up to me. And I think George Killichek had even mentioned this to me. I haven't seen him pop in yet, but I think we were talking about the per capita income of the city of Conyers, which has high density population compared to the rest of the county. And we talk about how much low, because the city of Conyers actually brings down the per capita income of the county because the per capita income of the city is so much lower than the unincorporated Rockdale. And so these housing units, and they're priced at a range that it's not practical. Um, Bill Campbell and I have also talked about that per capita income for the city of Conyers is $31,000. Um, if I'm not mistaken, that's well in the poverty level there, guys. I mean, because we're talking about the per capita household income of $31,000 in the city of Conyers. Doug Witham, hey Doug, great for joining the show. So so with high density housing, you have a lower per capita income, and we can see that right now in Rockdale County by just using the per capita income of the city of Conyers, and we see that it's lower. And it, and when you add all this additional housing, which is not filling up, they're not selling it for 300,000. So these investors are going to get it squirrely. I mean, I don't know how long they let it stay empty before they start, losing it, dumping it off, and then it becomes uh, how low income housing. That's eventually what'll happen. Corliss Turner, thanks for joining the show tonight. Uh, but that's the thing. The number one thing we have to look at what high density population, high density housing impact is a lower per capita income in a community, which impacts a community in a lot of different ways. Uh, uh, yeah, Alex, gentrification. Those folks will be taxed out of their houses. Yeah, less than half of the rest of the county. The per capita income in the city of Conyers is less than half of the rest of the county, guys. And then we build these 6,500 units, or have been approved, and the majority, 80% of them, have been approved for being within the city limits of Conyers, or if not within the city limits, within that entwined boundary thing that puts it right in there. So it's ridiculous. So what else does high density housing, high population, what else does it do to a community? Uh, it challenges your water supply. So, George Kelichek has told me he's going to come on the show at some point, and he's going to talk about what's going on in the county, what's going on in the area with water. And, George will point blank tell you that our water supply is being impacted by what's going on with this building, and with the straining of it. Not only do we will we have insufficient water supply, but we will have a insufficient waste disposal problem. We will not have the capacity to dispose of all the waste that these additional housing units are going to generate. So we have a water problem, we have a waste problem, then we're going to have high energy consumption. We're going to have high energy consumption at a time when Georgia has lost its freaking mind, and especially this region, and we're going to go into the production of electric vehicles. So we've got the electric vehicle, the Rivian plant going in here over towards Social Circle off of I-20. We've got an electric airplane factory plant that's going to go in here in Covington. So we generate and produce all these electric vehicles in this region. We put them into circulation here, where we're going to increase the population with high density housing, which is going to draw additional electricity. Then we're going to throw these EVs in here, electric vehicles, into the mix, which draw electricity. So, guys, I'm going to ask you a question. So we talk about these EVs, these electric vehicles, and then we talk about them needing more electricity. I don't know if you guys remember last year or not, when it got real hot this past summer, when it got real hot, and they were telling everybody conserve energy and set your thermostat at certain temps and watch and make sure because it was draining the electric grid. What in the world do they think is going to happen if we can't handle a week of hot weather, when you throw all these EVs out there and they plug into these charging stations? And then what kind of fuel do we use to generate electricity? We use fossil fuels. So we're going to have to increase the production of fossil fuels to generate more the more capacity of electricity to charge these EVs. Can you say absolutely freaking ridiculous? The logic of some of these people, absolutely ridiculous. The logic of these individuals and what they think. George Kelichek has entered the chat, and he's put up something about some environmentally friendly housing that they've done in DeKalb County and such. So, guys, we just need to, what we need to do is we need to look, what in the heck do we think we're doing? So, so we look at that, right? And also, all that, you have more pollution. High density creates more trash, more pollution. It just creates a lot of things. Uh, yeah, I agree, Alec. They are cool, but they are just another manifestation of high density housing. And with high density housing, all the things that I just mentioned come with high density housing and increased population where everybody's crammed together. So one of the commissioners is always touting the mental health initiative. And mental health is something that's near and dear to my heart. My sister passed away last year, had a mental health condition, and I was her guardian conservator for over 20 years. And, she really, the last 25 years of her life were, I think it was a really good high quality because we got her mental health under control. But it was a fight. Her mental health was a fight her whole life. So mental health is it's something that's near and dear to me. And I really don't like people like Doreen Williams just out there using it and they're just using it because I don't think she really cares about it. If she really cared about it, she would, this high density housing, you might not be doing it once you hear some of the things that high density housing, increased population cause. 21% increase of likelihood of depression among women. 21% increase in depression among females. 21% the more likelihood of suicide of males in high density housing areas. So you've got a 21% increase in females being severely depressed, and you have a 21% more likelihood of males committing suicide. And this is across all across all races, poverty line, money, everything. This is across the board. This high density housing is not good for mental health. The numbers are there. 21% increase in severe depression suffered by females. 21% increase of suicide rate among men in areas with high density housing, high density population. What in the world is this Board of Commission, these people thinking, especially a commissioner who touts that she's there for your mental health and your concern? And she's even got the grits and gravy program going over at the place over there at Parker Road, which I won't name, but grits and gravy. And you guys, I already know I'm saying it wrong. I know what it really is, but I like calling it grits and gravy. You know what I mean? Because that's just what I like to do. So, so oh yeah, William Campbell, no available beds in hospitals either. So so guys, we've really got to look what's going on. So so Cheryl's put this out there where she's right what's going on in all the hospitals and all that. So read what Cheryl's writing about there. I mean, guys, it is just absolutely crazy. And not only we talk about the mental illness, then we talk about your life expectancy. So they talk about wanting to build a vibrant community. Do you know one of the other things that reduces once you have high density housing, life expectancy, your lifetime, life expectancy reduces when you increase high density housing. The amount of years that you have on this earth declines if you live in an area with high density housing. It's because of the pollution. It's because of the strain on your life, the nervousness. Just all these things impact you, and it reduces the life expectancies. Guys, what are we thinking? What are we doing to this community? Crime also increases as you increase population. The more people, the less money, the more people need things that they can't get, they're going to get it some way. So crime increases in high density areas. Guys, you know what? I invited last week, I said if somebody wanted to come on the show and talk about all the things that they wanted to, why they wanted this high density housing, why it was so great for Rockdale County. I said, come on the show and let's talk about it. Nobody took me up on the offer. Nobody is here. They don't know what they're doing and they don't know how to do it. And a lot of times they'll use terminologies. They have no idea what they actually mean. Corliss, for you put up here from high density to medium density to affordable housing to now studios. What they are doing is jumping from one type to another. They don't know what direction they're going in. All this because of lack of plan, and a lot of it is because they actually don't know what the definition of any of that stuff that you just mentioned is, and they don't know what impact it's going to have on a community at all whatsoever. They have no idea. So when you've got a county like Rockdale who has finite resources, finite means limited, infinite, if the word infinite means on and on and on forever. But Rockdale County has finite resources because we are the second smallest landmass county in the state of Georgia. And when you keep trying to pack things, more things in to Rockdale County, you're causing more harm to this county. People moved to Rockdale County for a reason. Most people like the fact, you had this little country type of atmosphere right outside the city of Atlanta. You could drive to go to all this excitement and things you wanted. They really didn't want that stuff brought to Rockdale County. That's why they moved to Rockdale County. But then you've got, these commissioners who have no idea what they're doing whatsoever. And who do we have to blame for this? No one but ourselves. No one but ourselves. No one but ourselves. Corliss, when Larry Cox gets on the school board, I will fight to lower taxes. I'm going to fight to do away with things that we don't need. Like I said last week on the show, you can cut 15, and that was being very considerate when I said you can cut 15% from any budget and not impact critical, the critical sources of what's going on. The budget, you can cut 15% of any budget and not impact critical services. That's just reality. You can actually cut more than that because if you all recall, when we were going through COVID, Governor Kemp said one year he made 2 years in a row, he had all departments do a mandatory 10% budget cut. The next year, they did 10 additional percent. So the state of Georgia trimmed their budget by 20% during COVID because they 2 years in a row mandatory 10% across the board budget cuts, which added up to 20%. The state of Georgia cut their budget by 20% over a 2-year time period. And if you heard a lack of services, things not getting done, things not happening, no, you haven't, because that didn't impact anybody. It did not impact the state of Georgia at all. And realistically, I say 15%, but what I think we could do at the Board of Education is actually cut 15% one year, then cut 15% next year. What my fear with the Board of Education is, I think you've got two factions at the board right now. My fear is that nobody really wants to cut the budget, that they just want spend the money in a different direction when I might be the only person that really wants to cut the budget. And it'll be an interesting situation because let's just think about it. Let's just talk outside the box, guys. You've got a 3-3 split on that Board of Education right now. If Larry Cox gets elected, then I am the deciding vote one way or the other. One way or the other, my vote goes one way or the other in deciding something. The deciding vote. And that's scary to this Board of Education, and to that bureaucratic bunch that sit in that board office. To have an individual that can't be bought, that can't be swayed, that can't be intimidated, sitting on that board, who's not afraid to have public hearings, not afraid to go out and talk to the community and see what the community wants the board to do. I'm a terrifying individual to a board like what we have right now. Like I said, the first, we need to fire Terry Oates and cut the budget. And one is not any more important or less important than the other. It must be done at the same time. Then we also need to get rid of this ridiculous thing that Rockdale County BOE can go up to a 30% millage rate. I think it's 24% that's capped for the rest of the counties of Georgia, except for 2 or 3. And Rockdale County is one of the 2 or 3 that can go above 24%. So Rockdale County, one thing I will do is I will propose a resolution to go to the legislature as a member of the board that Rockdale County put on the ballot to reduce the highest millage rate that can be imposed on the citizens to that 24%, which is state law, which all the rest of the counties, except for 2 or 3 others, do. Rockdale County needs to be in line with the rest. And I also think we need to look at passing legislation that limits the percent that taxes can be increased each year, because this millage rate nonsense is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That is just ridiculous. Corliss Representative Taylor says it codified. What does that mean? So in what context does she say that, and to what situation? So that, that would be, what we need to know. So, but guys, we can make a difference in this county. And how do we make a difference in this county? We make a difference in this county by looking at what nonsense that our elected officials, and let's just talk, guys. The majority of this high density housing was approved by the city of Conyers. Now those guys at the boards of commission are going right along with this nonsense, and they're doing their fair share of approving the housing that's right on the outskirts. But we've got to stop this right now. They are ruining this county. I don't know if we can save Central Rockdale. We're going to have to look at what we can do when we get these people out of office, and what people can do to help, limit the damage that's been done. But we don't need to have North and South Rockdale destroyed by these politicians. We've got to stop this right now, guys. We have got to say enough is enough. It's time for change, and it's time to put people in office. For the 30, see, back in the 1960s, there was legislation that was passed, and the citizens of Rockdale County in a special election voted to have the millage rate for the Board of Education increase from what the state maximum allowed to the 30. It can be reversed by, all we have to is the Board of Education sends a resolution to the state legislature asking that the legislature pass legislation that reduces it back down, and we would have to vote on it as citizens, because it was voted on by the citizens, and it was voted on by less than 600 individuals participated in that election in the 1960s. So 600 and some people in the 1960s, and they'll say the citizens of Rockdale County approved this. Under 600 people voted on this in the 1960s. Rockdale County was a much different county then. So we need to let citizens now, today, vote that they don't want our Board of Education to have the power to put that kind of tax on us with that kind of millage rate. But what we need to look at is we need to look at legislation that limits the percent of tax that can be increased each year. And then that takes this millage rate nonsense out of play. When we actually say you can't increase taxes over X percent, because these guys will run with it and they will tax you into oblivion. Like Alex said earlier today, the people that are going to move in these houses, and you and I, it is going to be hard for people of lower income to be able to maintain home ownership in Rockdale County. It's going to be virtually impossible. So guys, we need to do our best to make sure that we, the citizens of Rockdale County, say enough is enough. We need to stop this crazy taxation that's going on. Our senior citizens are being put at risk. They're being put at risk by the Heartless Three: the City of Conyers, the Board of Commission, and the Board of Education. We've got to lower taxes on all three of these entities, all three of these municipalities, all three of these government entities have to lower taxes. If I'm elected to a member of the Board of Education, I will fight for lower taxes. Don't know how that's going to work out with the rest of the board, but I will fight for lower taxes. We start by cutting the budget 15%, mandatory 15% across the board budget cut, then pass those savings on to the taxpayers of Rockdale County. I have spoken all that I need to say tonight. I wanted to come on, say these few things about this high density housing. And guys, I know that we can make a difference in this county. It's just going to take each and every one of us going to that ballot box, voting, and saying enough is enough. That's what we need to do. You and I can start that change. Vote incumbents out of office. Vote in new people. Next election, if the new people don't do what they say they were going to do, then vote them out of office and vote some more new people in. The more new people we vote in the office, the better for us. Just remember that. Don't keep the same people in office. Term limit them. Let them go in, accomplish a couple of things, and then send them packing. If they can't term limit themselves, then you need to term limit them. That's what we need to do. Guys, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me tonight. I look forward to seeing you guys on the show next week. Next weekend, I've got an event that I'm going to do. So the show I'll put it up there. I'll schedule the show earlier this week, but the show won't be until 8:30 next week because I won't make it back here until about 8. So next Sunday, the show will have a half hour later start. We will be starting at 8:30 p.m. instead of 8 p.m. So next week, I'll see each and every one of you, and I'll advertise that a little bit this week so people will know. But the show will be 8:30 next Sunday. Thanks, and can't wait to see you then.